Welcome to Warp Core Breach, episode 48, The Trouble with Tribbles. While heading towards the disputed Sherman's planet, after a shore leave on Deep Space Station K7, your fleet is set upon by an enemy fleet that was also at the space station. Both fleets have brought some Tribbles on board their ships from the station. Will the small creatures cause problems for your fleet during the battle, or will they help your ships to achieve victory?
That is the question. Depending upon how you go about building and how you go about piloting, this could be a very fun or a very excruciating process dealing with these Tribbles.
Yes. You know what? I'm getting a little tired of being set upon by an enemy fleet.
It's a very common conceit these days. You're just minding your own business, doing the things from the show, and suddenly an enemy fleet appeared.
More so, we were both at the space station. Why couldn't we have settled our differences there?
It's like Pokemon battling. You can't have Pokemon battles inside the city unless it's like signed off by a gym or something. But you're out in the wild, you catch eyes, suddenly it's go time.
So you're saying that there were big people with guns at the space station, and they said, nope, not here, take it outside.
Take it over to that Sherman's planet.
That makes sense. So I think the answer to both of their questions is yes.
They are both going to help your ships and cause all sorts of fun problems. Engaging problems. Problems that make me want to kill Tribbles.
Ooh. As somebody who played Cyrano Jones a couple of times back in the day, Tribbles help you, and then they hurt you, and then you want to get rid of them so that they can continue helping you.
Yes, it's the lovely cycle of Tribbles. They're great until they're not, until you make them great again. Mm-hmm. Make Tribbles great again, Cyrano.
So, we get a planet directly in the center of the play area.
I do love me some planets. Anytime you give me a big obstacle to play around with, that gets my head churning about what I can do to control the map and what sort of piloting tricks I can throw in there to really get work done.
Yes, although this time if you run into it, it's just a planet. You don't go boom, so.
Which makes it significantly easier to deal with. You don't need to worry about getting thrown into the planet. And if you do happen to bump, well, it's not the end of the world. You can just keep on piloting your merry way. And also, things like the Interceptor 5 can just live next to the planet. Just slap down like something like Captain Hazar to make sure the opponent's throwing less attack dice against you, and just continually bump the planet to kind of maintain arc on a section of space.
Ooh. Or I think it's the maneuverability talent or tech that lets you live on the planet.
The problem with that is that it removes it as an obstacle for your opponent shooting at you while you're on top of the planet, but it's still really cool.
Yeah, minor details.
Yeah.
The point is you're living on the planet.
Correct. You are going straight in for it. I like the idea of kind of using it as a way to post up on an angle and hold like a defensive position, but you absolutely can use it as just a big obstacle in the middle of the board that's giving you bonuses to your defenses while you're just flying around where no one else can really reach.
That would be fun. Oh, put Kohlar on there so he can intercept shots.
Ooh, that's getting fancy with it.
Yeah. Just some random ideas.
We're not saying you should do these. We're just saying these are interesting ideas to attempt.
I'm saying if you want to have random fun with this scenario, try it.
There you go. You've got a planet that's not going to mess with you at all. Enjoy. Things that I'm looking into are like, how can I play around with Borg to like run them into the planet and then just prepare to leap over all at once? Those are the kind of things that I'm looking at when I see a planet token. I want to use this to coordinate my fleet and to disorient my opponent. And I think that terrain like planet tokens or obstacles can really help you do that.
Yeah, maybe, and this might be a little crazy. We won't see a standard joust in this build.
Not a standard joust? You must be crazy.
Yeah.
Seriously, though, it feels like the last few OPs have been very direct. Just fly in there, fight your opponent, and while playing around at our venue, I think that we've been able to circumvent that by very intentionally building gimmicky fleets and cutesy ideas that kind of circumvent the joust. I still think that's been a problem with the the scenarios they've been building lately, and luckily, Trouble with Tribbles defies that expectation.
Yeah, it still makes you want to engage quickly because of the Tribbles.
You're on the clock, but now you don't have all the time to set up. You're not looking at an empty board. You're not looking at an ignorable objective. This is a planet token. This is sitting in the middle of the board. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to fly around it. You're going to have to fly around it while your opponent's trying to kill you. And you've also got Tribbles to worry about, putting a clock on the match, making all of your ships less effective as time goes on, kind of forcing you to build a certain way, kind of avoiding Klingons, all sorts of things.
Right. So, further details on the scenario. You get the standard setup, range 1, edge of the board. There's 24 mission tokens, but really that number's irrelevant. There's an unlimited number of mission tokens.
The Tribbles never end, let's be clear.
Yeah, and that's thematic. Each player takes 2 mission tokens, and they put 1 or 2 on a ship or ships. So you either put 2 on 1 or 1 on 2. However you want to split that up.
Basically, you've got these 2 tokens. You distribute them how you will. You could double stack them, or you could put them on different ships, but they must be 2 Tribbles on your fleet when you start the game.
And I'm almost certain I'm going to go 2 different ships.
Absolutely, because that means at the turn 2, if you're engaging on turn 2, you are actually going to be getting your bonus dice for those ships, since these are kind of nerf Tribbles. They only give you bonuses on 1 or 2 Tribbles, whereas 3 to 4 is nothing, and 5 to 6 is going to be actively detrimental to your ship. Again, assuming no Klingons involved.
Yeah, and I feel like that's just more reason for people to joust as a whole, and that's maybe missing the boat.
I don't know if I think it's reason to joust. I think it's convincing people to start fighting early rather than... Something I've noticed is whenever there's a planet token, it can take a few turns, or any sort of big objective that you don't want to run into in the middle of the map. It can take a few turns for people to orient their fleets and really decide, you know what, let's engage here. Whereas I think the 2 limit to the bonus for the Tribble tokens means that WizKids is really trying to get you to go hard, go fast, get in there, get scrumming it up, start fighting, push your ships in there. Don't worry about getting them in a perfect line or making sure you're flying in formation. Just get in, get fighting, and see what shakes out.
That is a fair point.
So I'm not going to hold it against them, but I do think that there were other ways they could have done it.
Yeah. What Tribbles do...
Yes, let's get that clear. While you only have 1 or 2 of them on your ship, you roll an extra attack and defense die every time you are attacking or defending. Whereas when you have 3 or 4, as I mentioned, there's no effect. You just kind of have these Tribbles, but once you start overloading on Tribbles, once you have 5 or more Tribble tokens on your ship, now you're rolling 1 less attack die and 1 less defense die as your crew are busying themselves dealing with the Tribbles pouring out of every orifice.
Yes, all the cargo bays and shuttle bays. And
not to mention, of course, they have extreme prejudice against Klingons. How exactly does that work out?
If a ship has any number of Tribble tokens whatsoever, and you have a Klingon captain or crew, and our venues extended that to admirals or not just Klingon faction, but a Klingon of any faction, so Mirror Universe or Fed or...
Fed Wharf, you've got things like the Mirror Universe Klingons, yes. Still Wharf.
Because I'm mean sometimes, and I thought Absolutely. It was even more thematic, because Tribbles would recognize a Klingon of any faction.
Klingon's a Klingon. We don't care what universe it's from. They do not discriminate.
But as written, if your ship has a Klingon captain or crew.
Basically a Klingon person that isn't an admiral.
Yes. The ship cannot perform any free actions, and must place an Aux power token beside it if it executes a maneuver with a speed of 3 or higher. That makes everything 3 up red, and if it's already red, it makes it double red.
Which is really important, since almost every Klingon ship has a 3 come about that is red. So now, if you've got a Klingon ship with Klingon crewmen, and you've got any sort of Tribbles involved, your maneuverability is shot.
Yeah. So don't do that.
Specifically, don't do that. Which is actually really sad, since I think there's a lot of Klingons that work very well with the Tribbles.
Yeah. Feel free to bring Klingon ships. Tribbles don't dislike Klingon ships, though they probably should, because they would smell like Klingon.
It's got that new Klingon smell.
But, yeah, just don't put Klingons on them.
My thing about the Klingons and the Tribbles is that Tribbles, I think, are best exploited when you're attacking multiple times in a turn or defending multiple times in a turn.
Yeah.
And most of the ways you get to do that are by Klingons, whether it's something like Captain Core, either Captain Core, to be honest, that the one that taunts, that allows you to draw in all the attacks. If you're rolling one extra defense die on all those attacks because you've got a Tribble nearby, that's really great. That's good bonus. But you can't do that because he's a Klingon. Same with the other core that gives you rerolls based on crew every time you attack. If you're attacking multiple times and you're getting quality on all those attacks, you get a really nice big bonus out of that. And that makes Tribbles really useful. But you can't do that because he's a Klingon and he doesn't work well. Now, the one interesting interaction is you can use Admiral Worf from the Mirror faction alongside Tribbles, even the way we're running it, by giving the attack to another ship that has the Tribbles aboard, so Worf never actually has to come in contact with the Tribbles himself, but that still shows just the kind of interdependence between Tribbles giving you boosts every time you attack or defend, and Klingons wanting to attack and defend multiple times.
Right. There's some mess there, but I think it's a good thematic mess.
Absolutely. If you want a fluffy scenario, Tribbles are a great way to do that on more ways than one. It's funny because they're balls of fluff.
Yeah.
Fluffy.
I got you. Now, there are a couple of benefits while you have Tribble tokens. You get 2 more actions. So, if your ship is not cloaked, you can disable all of your remaining shields and target a ship at range 1 to 2 that is not cloaked and has no active shields, and place any number of your Tribble tokens on the target ship's ship card.
Basically, it's a Tribble transfer.
Yep.
I don't need all these extra Tribbles. Why don't you have them? This is very nice for pushing your opponent over the 5 Tribble token limit. It's nice to kind of get rid of your excess and foist them onto your opponent, removing their bonuses, giving you yours back, or just getting out of the Tribble game entirely if you don't want to have to deal with them proliferating on your ship turn after turn.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you're not cloaked, you can disable all your remaining shields and target the planet if you're within range 1 to 2 of it, and put any number of your Tribble tokens back into the supply pile.
As absolutely wrong as this probably is, I just envision the planet as this massive garbage disposal for all the Tribbles. You have too many Tribbles, send them to the Sherman planet where they'll have a happy fun time on the farm with your aunt and uncle who live in the countryside. Nothing bad will happen to them at all, we swear.
I'm pretty sure in the episode Sherman's planet had a variety of grain that poisoned the Tribbles.
Oh, okay. So it is like an indirect garbage disposal. You're not necessarily grinding them up, but you are very, very clearly doing away with the poor little furry creatures.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they didn't have it coming, but...
Now, the bad side of this is that you place a critical hit token beside your ship cards. You're not actually taking critical damage. It's just used as a marker because mission tokens are being used to mark Tribbles. The downside is whoever has the fewest critical hit tokens gets 20 extra fleet points.
This is like the Tribble compassion bonus. The Tribbles realize that you weren't going to send them all to their deaths, and so are more than happy to award you a few extra bonus points in the end of the battle.
Yeah, I foresee most games being 0-0, so nobody gets anything.
In terms of bonus.
Right, 0 crit hit tokens to 0 crit hit tokens.
Yes. Not that there wasn't going to be any casualties.
Oh no, there'll be plenty of casualties.
I plan on it.
And maybe that should be a thing. Fewest Tribbles murdered.
Ooh, that would be cool. It gives you an incentive to spread out your Tribbles. Make sure that no matter what your opponent's hitting, they're taking down your Tribbles. Which also is a lot of fun because it gets you engaging with the scenario's gimmick more. I do hate that, assuming the action round is not done at quality, the one where you dump down to one Tribble left or grab one Tribble, you are only getting that one turn where you've got to pay that action. So you've got then end of turn, go up to 2 Tribble tokens, can get quality that round, but that only gives you 1 round with your boosted dice. Whereas then it immediately turns into 3, which removes your bonus for next round. Whereas Serrano Jones gave you the bonus while you had 3 or less Tribbles by your ship. So,
well,
they did very much tailor the scenario against abuse.
It opens it up to free action captains who can spend their main ship action to beam away Tribbles.
Yeah, Tribble manipulation is going to be part of the action economy of the scenario, so plan with that in mind.
Oh, so yay, you're telling me Fed captains have an advantage again?
Weird. It's almost like we're playing Star Trek Attack Wing. Enough getting down on the Fed. They're a very good faction, and for all the nonsense they come out with, I still think that it's good that they exist with the diversity that they have.
Oh, yeah. Here's the bigger problem. You lower your shields too early in the round, your opponent is going to drop Tribbles on you, and your action of beaming Tribbles away is worthless.
Suddenly, high captain skill is very valuable, and without Klingons, it's a little bit harder to hit that high captain skill, because you don't have access to captains like Martok or Kor, who have naturally high captain skill, and Worf isn't allowed to come on to buff them even higher. So there's a definite influence on the way you want to build this scenario. There's an influence on how you want to pilot it because of the big planet token in the middle. And I think it affects how you want to actually play it out, picking ships to attack or how you want to spread your bonuses around your fleet. And I think that for being a scenario that changes so much about the game and how you're playing and what you want to be doing going into the scenario, I think that's a success. That's what I want out of my scenarios, and the Trouble with Tribbles scenario does that for me.
Here's what I think's happened. The scenario has changed what you can build with. I don't think it will change much how the games play out on the table.
And that might be the case. I would be surprised, but it is entirely possible that I will be completely wrong and Gorn Raiding Party won't show up. You won't have a bunch of ships abusing the planet in the middle of the board to kind of modify how they're maneuvering. But I really do think that there's going to be a bigger effect on this scenario than there's been for the past 3 or 4.
Oh, well, that's plausible because the past 3 or 4 scenarios have been absolute rubbish.
Unfair, I know.
But I'm looking back at Temporal Cold War. I'm looking back at Late Dominion War. I'm looking at Arena, at other scenarios that had planets in them. Mm-hmm. And those scenarios were far more impactful in terms of how the planet affected the scenario.
That's actually one of the things that I like about the scenario is that I'm not scared of the planet. And a lot of the other scenarios where I've seen planet tokens, the planet's been this big dangerous thing that churns out damage every round or is dangerous to get too close to or is literally a sun. This time, we've got a very placid planet. I can approach it without worrying. I'm not going to take extra damage for being there. I have nothing to fear about just parking a cube, just ramming into it every turn until I'm ready to move over the planet. There's no real threat from the planet itself, and that gives it an extra layer of texture for me when I'm piloting my ships into it. It gives me a way to interact with it without worrying about getting burned by the fire.
Oh, and that's all well and good. Planets are interesting, and not every planet's been super scary. That's not what I'm on about. It's just other scenarios have done a better job of incorporating the planet and making it a meaningful part of how the scenario works. And,
I can see that.
And this does have a little bit of planetary interaction in terms of being able to dump off your tribbles, but it's a deleterious effect.
Yeah, it is that just garbage disposal sitting there in the middle of the board. Have you had too much fun with your tribbles? Get rid of them here.
And that will work to some degree, but how much, that remains to be seen.
Well, Dave's going to sit over there being a Debbie Downer all he wants. I like this scenario, and I'm very pleased to see Tribbles making an appearance, even if they are in a nerfed form.
Look, I will take Tribbles. I'm happy to see them. I want to see something other than a joust, and I don't know that this gets me it.
There's that. On the bright side, Tribbles coming up now is basically the perfect time for them, since with the Klingon Civil War coming out soon, we're going to be seeing a lot of Klingons in a lot of places that they don't necessarily belong. And so having that preceded by a scenario that basically discourages Klingons from seeing too much play is at least one thing WizKids has done very directly to kind of stop you from getting fed up with seeing Klingons everywhere. We are launching into a 3 OP run for the Civil War, but having this break with the Tribbles that says basically no Klingon captain or crew unless you want to take a pretty hefty gamble, that I like. That's design and action. That
is. So, at least we're not sitting here trying to rewrite the entire scenario. That's one big plus.
Yeah. there were a few going back where I was sitting there looking at this like, this is an interesting idea. How can we make it work? And it's nice to look at a scenario and not have to worry about how to make it work. It works on its own merit.
Corporate mind. Okay. So, if you show up, you get Scan Cycle.
Oh, yes. Scan Cycle. This thing.
It's a 5-point resource, and you get 5 scan tokens. During the activation phase, when a ship in your fleet performs an action from its action bar, you may remove 1 scan token from this card and place it beside the ship as a free action.
Isn't that just a load of word salad?
It works. It just means you have to do one of the 7 action bar actions.
Now, Dave will tell you, I've had a love affair with scans ever since I started playing Star Trek Attack Wing. And now I've got a resource that just says, you want to scan, scan away, scan to your heart's content, except it doesn't count as performing a scan, because you're not taking the scan action, you're placing a scan token by your ship.
Right.
Now, this is useful, and that allows you to hit that magical double scan section of the section of play where you actually have 2 scan tokens beside you for just shredding through defense dice. But at the same time, it means that you can't do this while you have auxiliary power by your ship, which means General Orders is probably going to be more effective. It means you can't do it if you're performing an action that's not from your action bar. Say you have a captain action or some sort of upgrade or even a named ability on your ship that actually requires your action. Now you cannot pair Scan Cycle with that, which is another advantage that General Orders has. It does give you free scans, 5 scans, but it requires you to be playing the game in a very standard way where you just take actions off your action bar. And that's a tougher sell for me.
Where it's really interesting, mirror Admiral Riker. You place a scan token beside your ship, and then you perform an action from your action bar as a free action.
Well, now you can't have that free action be a scan action. That's part of Riker's stipulations, is that you can't perform a scan action as a free action.
So you can't triple scan.
Correct. But you could already double scan, and now Admiral Riker gives you a double scan with another action from your action bar. Be it a battle stations, target lock, heck, even an evade or a cloak. Maybe you're running something like the Chitang that gets rerolls when it cloaks. Now you can run Spock and one of the crew members for the Klingons that gives you a scan conversion to a defense. Forget what his name is. But there are some ways you can play around with this. It's been difficult in the past to get multiple scan tokens by your ship, which has necessarily limited the effectiveness of some upgrades like Breen Aid or Spock, things like that.
Dimitri Valtain more so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Cards that give you quality based on having scan tokens. And now that we can get multiple scan tokens by our ship, I think that's going to open up some interesting build opportunities.
Yeah. Now, before we continue, I know somebody's going to do this. They're going to say, but David, Riker says you cannot perform the scan action as a free action this round. Scan Cycle says, remove one scan token from this card and place it beside the ship as a free action.
Correct.
You're removing a scan token and placing it as a free action. That's not performing a scan action.
This doesn't help you with cloaked minds, mind you.
Yeah, but it's placing a scan token. That's the free action. So, in my mind, it works because English.
Yeah, there was no scan action taken. So, Riker has his day in court. Scan Cycle gives you its scan, and you've got an action from your action bar. So, very, very effective combination there.
No, I don't know that you'd want 2 scan tokens and another action bar action, but if you do, then there you go. You could also run Captain Mirror Riker. And that
I think this also works nicely with Mirror Spock or like the Mirror Prakash, things that are already giving you extra actions. Yeah. That way you can use your standard action on something other than your action bar, or you could use Spock's extra action on literally whatever you'd like. But I want to use this with ways to get my action to be something other than my action bar, because the action bar is boring. Yeah. Upgrades are fun.
Martok 8.
Martok 8. Martok 9 I've been looking at and thinking, hey there, what can I do with you?
Yeah. So, the scan cycle is okay. We'll see how effective it is. I think you're right. I think General Orders will play.
And I love scan tokens, so it really hurts me to say that, but I've got to hand it to General Orders here. It doesn't have the problems that Scan Cycle presents.
Yeah. I still think Tactics and Protocol will play until they retire before Scan Cycle, so...
Yeah, that's a reasonable statement. I don't think that there's too much off about that. Good resource to take with you. Not going to win you the game on its back alone.
No, but decent support.
Absolutely. Moving on, we have a new D7 class on offer for this OP. This is going to be Kohlar's Battle Cruiser. Once again, we've got the Klingon D7 giving you that 3-1-3-3 stat line, and the named ability is quite intriguing for me. During the end phase, if your cloak token is red, you can flip it back to its green side for an Ox power. This completely negates any sort of force to uncloak, that ability that your opponent might have, other than the ability to just remove the cloak token directly. And it essentially gives you the Scimitar's permacloak ability, but with a lot less stipulations. It doesn't require you to just have it be turned red from attacking. You can have it be from named abilities, from your opponents messing with you, things like Shanti.
Yep.
There's a bunch of nasty ways that your opponent can stop you from cloaking, and Kohlar's Battle Cruiser stops pretty much all of them.
Yeah, and it's the best timing. It's the end phase, so you get to make a decision. Mm-hmm. You get to say, you know what? I will drop my cloak this time.
See how the turn played out. See what is left on the board before you dedicate to cloak or uncloak.
Should note that it does actually have cloak and sensor echo on the action bar, as opposed to the Groth, which had battle stations.
Which was quite the change up, but, you know, Klingons are allowed to try new things every now and again.
Yeah. Well, this one survived for like another 200 years and went to the Delta Quadrant. And
well, how about that?
Yeah. So, it's an interesting one.
Absolutely, and I like the bar. Having 3 crew slots is pretty fantastic. I like crew, I like Klingon crew a lot, and I like other factions crew, so having more crew slots gives me options to muck around with.
Yeah.
I don't like the lack of a tech slot, but it's Klingons. What tech are they really, really trying to bring to the field?
Projected stasis field.
True, which you can't use while cloaked. which is kind of this whole named ability.
Interface generator.
Which is actually the best argument against Kohlar's battlecruiser, is that it's meant to effectively be permacloaked, but can't run any interface. So that's a little bit of a double-edged sword there.
Yeah. Ways to add tech slots, but they're pricey.
They exist, but I'd rather not have to pay for them. I'd like to have just the slot there waiting for me to come home with cloaked mines, with an interface generator, something Romulan to really spice up the Klingon.
Well, naturally, when we have a named captain's battlecruiser, we typically get that named captain.
I would have been shocked to see otherwise.
So now we have Captain Kohlar. He starts as a skill 3, 2-point, with a talent slot. Yay, talent slot. Your captain skill number increases by +2 for each damage card assigned to your ship, max of +4. So put him on a whole 3 ship, and that's about it.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think that you put this guy on a big hull ship so that you can actually soak the hits, and now you've paid 2 points for a skill 7 captain.
Perhaps. The downside is, if the damage to your ship is repaired, his skill number goes down.
That is true. If you repair past that last 2 hits, it's difficult to keep him going, but still, there's a few ships out there that can get damage to themselves by themselves, such as the Avatar of Tamed. And so bringing him along doesn't hurt. There's also a few Klingon upgrades, that things like talents that cause damage to you and your opponent. And I can see those working well with Kohlar, given that he's just free captain skill bait.
I suppose. I don't know. I guess in my low captain skill world for Klingons, I still prefer Nudok before most others. Even Kern.
Mm-hmm.
But,
There are other options. I just like the idea of a skill 7 for 2 points captain.
He can also field the Kuva Mah talent for 2 less points.
I mean, that's something, especially because it actually has direct synergy with his named ability. But that would be an elite talent. It is unique. Kuva Mah is when you are attacking with your primary weapons. During the roll attack die step, you can discard this to gain 1 attack die for every Klingon crew member assigned to your ship, and then suffer 1 crit to your hull.
So don't put this on a 2-hull ship.
For 5 points, people.
Because with your luck, with my luck, I will draw direct hit.
Absolutely.
Or minor explosion, the one where you have to roll a die and suffer an additional damage.
This thing is just sitting there waiting to kill you, so don't tempt fate. Keep to the whole 3 or higher ships.
Keep to the whole 5 or higher ships.
There's that too, but 5 points for what could be 3 attack dice, that's actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
Especially if you can get this on the discount of Kohlar. It hurts that you are getting your extra, the crit to your hull, and so the extra captain skill in the attack step after you've already decided on the attack order. But it is nice that it's 3 points for what could be 3 attack dice, given that this ship has 3 crew slots.
That is true. I really don't foresee myself running much of this. I don't foresee this ever being a thing.
I think that any ability that gives you something unique, in this case self-damage, has a gimmick somewhere. You just need to figure out what ship you actually want to be taking a hit at a specific time for a boost.
It's so cringeworthy times.
Kuva Mah, everybody. 5 points for possibly 3 dice and a crit to your hull. Is it worth it? Probably not. Does it have a gimmick somewhere? I believe.
I mean, I guess you could put it on the Ashmer, and then you get a reroll of an attack die, but...
Oh, that's tricky. It gives you direct quality right there in the moment.
Yeah, because you're damaging yourself in the calculating attack dice step, and you're using the effect in the modify, so I think you're okay.
There's still room to modify your dice. It's not great, but it's usable.
It's about the best use I've got.
For a prize pack like this, I'm astounded to see something that I might actually use someday. That's generally not the case.
So that brings us to Crew Morak.
I was hoping we wouldn't go there, but it's inevitable, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, I understand. I'm sorry. We'll make this as quick and painless as possible, like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Exactly.
So he's 5 points, and this should already kind of make you cringe. Action. If your ship is not cloaked, disable this card to repair one of your shield tokens. So, hello, Harry Kim.
Hello, anybody else who does this better and doesn't disable themselves?
No, that first ability is Harry Kim.
Oh, is it?
Yes. Except the not cloaked part.
And he's Klingon.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't play nice with Tribbles.
But it's disable to repair a shield. Action, disable, repair a shield.
Very poor.
Yeah, very poor. Or, action, discard to flip up to 3 of your disabled shields over to their active sides. If you do this while your ship is cloaked, flip your cloak to its red side.
Which means you still have your cloak and active shields.
Yeah. But it's an action.
Dave, cloak with shields. It's a thing. It is a discard, so you're only doing this trick once, but that's a powerful force.
It's 3 shields.
Yeah, but how many Klingon ships have more than that?
I'm looking at Scimitar.
Okay, you're trying to pull him out of faction to get really nasty with it. And if you run him on a generic Riemann Warbird, you actually do get all 3 shields back.
I'm trying to figure out the best place for him, to figure out where to abuse him the most, to justify 5 points, and I've got nothing.
I'm not saying I have something. I'm just saying that it is something. I don't have his home. I don't see where I really want him to go, but I see that I want him. I want him to go somewhere. Fun fact, you can actually combine this on a Hull 3 or lower ship with improved deflector screens to add improved deflector screens to your cloaked defenses. That's hard to get over, Dave.
Yeah,
You've seen improved deflector screens on something as simple as a Borg scout cube. Imagine something that's rolling cloaked defense dice as well.
Great, so you're almost unkillable for 1 round.
True.
I will shoot at anything else.
I think that actually is the big problem here, is that it gives you 1 round of a big 5-point discard that makes you pretty bulky, very difficult to deal with. But he doesn't give you much more after the fact.
Okay. You can't combine him with Core 6.
You can if you bring along a crew member that allows you to...
no, because Core 6 cannot be used while you're cloaked.
Oh, that's right.
So that is how you would abuse him, and you can't do it.
You're right. Since you can't use both of them, since Morak requires you to be cloaked and keeps your cloak, whereas Core requires you to not be cloaked in order to be used in the first place.
Okay, you could combine him with Bashir.
Yeah, that's
but that's one
thing.
ship.
And it requires you to build a way to get multiple actions as well.
Fine, Martok 8, that's easy enough.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's some extra investment involved. It's not just as simple as the 2 crew together.
Yeah, but even then...
Talent diversion.
Okay, even then, is it really worth it?
It's probably not, but I want it to be. I like the idea that there's a gimmick here somewhere, and Morak could be used to do something that I don't think almost any other ship or card in the game can do. It's just that he doesn't do it in a useful enough way.
He would be better if he wasn't an action.
Wouldn't most things?
Well, yes, but I'm saying if he was just the second ability... he wouldn't cost 5 points, and then he'd be useful. The fact that he's both is what really hurts him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Morak falls by the wayside.
For now.
Next up, we have Tigreth, also a unique crewman for the Klingons, costing 4 points this time. His action is very, very poor. Very poor indeed. For an action, you may place a battle station token beside your ship and an Ox token beside your ship and you cannot perform the battle station action this round. Now, I want everyone to keep in mind that this is an action to get a battle station token, while we already have Ungaren and Drex, which are both an action to get a battle station conversion. So if you're using this for offenses, you're getting an Ox Power instead of using Drex or Ungaren. So
you're using it for defense or flexibility.
Flexibility, but I think that if you're not sure whether or not you're going to need a battle station for offenses or defenses, then chances are you don't have your priorities straight. You should know what your play is moving into your turn.
And Admiral Martok does it, or Admiral Gowron.
Admiral Gowron is disgusting. He's like the best thing that ever happened to the Klingons, and I am so looking forward to getting to run him for free at the start of the Klingon Civil War. So
yes,
fun times to be had ahead.
Tigreth could have been good. Would have been fine if he was just action place battle station token.
I could have bought that
without the Ox Power, because he doesn't need the Ox Power cost.
He's still not power creeping Ungaren and Drex, since he doesn't give you a crit conversion. But at the same time, he gives you 4 points for an action. Basically, 4 points to put the battle station's action on your bar. I think that wouldn't be broken. I don't think we needed to see this be an Ox Power action. But that's what WizKids gave us.
Uh-huh. Thanks.
Yay.
All right. Last card in this pack. Chegra, that's what I'm going with.
Trega.
Yeah, something. 2-point crew. Action. If your ship is not cloaked, disable all of your remaining shields. Target a ship at range 1 to 2 that's not cloaked, has no active shields. Disable this card and any 2 crew upgrades of your choice on the target ship. Been there, done that. Don't need to see it again.
Don't need to see it ever again. At least give us something that discards. I think it's cute that she disables herself, so she can be used with gimmicks like Captain Razik from the Kazon, who discards your crew for rerolls. But I don't want to be forced into the position where the best thing I can say for a crew is that it just doesn't discard itself. This is an effect we've seen before a million times in a million ways, probably done better by other cards, and the only thing that really stands out here is that it gives you a disabled crew card to throw away for some other bonus.
Yeah.
There's very few ways to abuse this, because it's just a disable. It's specifically for crew only, requires both of you to have all shields down. It just doesn't come up very often. When it does, there's probably better ways to take advantage of it, and building with Trega is just not quite enough.
Yeah. Plus, costs and dispersion field shut this thing down.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of crew protection. Looking at you, Amadagon.
Yeah, I'd still rather use Jen Sisko.
Mm-hmm.
That at least gives me a tech slot. And she does this ability at the start of the game, isn't limited to crew. Yeah.
Better.
1 more point, but that accounts for the tech slot.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways. Yeah, so that's the pack. The ship's neat.
The ship's very neat. I actually enjoy the captain. I think that he offers quite a lot for what he is, being a 2-point Klingon captain.
The talent's fun if you're a masochist.
The talent is fun for finding a gimmick that's probably workable in some way, whereas Morak is kind of there to give you ideas upon how to gimmick and then have you realize that it's not workable in any way.
Just better ways to do it.
It's
yeah,
just
so
not right.
I think all the crew need to be taken out back and fed some more blood wine.
We'll leave them on the Sherman planet. Stick them down the garbage disposal.
Have fun catching Tribbles.
There you go. Enjoy all the fun Tribbles that are raring to go for your Klingon blood.
Oh, that would be something. So, yeah, that's the trouble with Tribbles, and I'm still troubled.
I am more than ready to trouble my Tribbles in the upcoming scenario. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve planned, and I'm really looking forward to how the Tribbles play out on turn like 4 or 5, once they start really becoming a pain to deal with.
Fair enough. All right, so that's it for us. We'll be back next month with Klingon Civil War Month 1, the attack on Gowron.
Have a good one, everybody. Kapla!
Warp core ejected.
Warp Core Breach is produced by Nick Norris and David Montgomery, with additional content from our contributors. Our computer is voiced by Corinne Donnelly.
Warp Core Breach is not endorsed, sponsored, or affiliated with CBS Studios Incorporated or the Star Trek franchise. All Star Trek trademarks and logos are owned by CBS Studios Incorporated.
All sound files are used under Creative Commons 3.0 by attribution. For specifics, please visit our Facebook page by searching Warp Core Breach Podcast. If you want to contribute to the show, let us know on the Facebook page, or you can email us at warpcorebreachpodcast@gmail.com.